It is fair to say that the Guy Fawkes V for Vendetta anonymous mask has, in the 21st century, conquered the world. It has appeared in many places, within many contexts, and through many media. Its latest manifestation during the protests in Ukraine, both for and against the Euromaidan, or Dignity Revolution, constitute a new mutation in the meme's extremely successful transmission across the globe. The concept of the meme, of course, derives from Richard Dawkins' famous coinage of the term in his 1976 book, The Selfish Gene. The Oxford English Dictionary would later define a meme as an element of a culture that may be considered to be passed on by non-genetic means, especially imitation. Susan Blackmore in 1999 would then isolate the three necessary conditions for such memetic replication: heredity, variation, and selection. For our purposes, the Guy Fawkes V for Vendetta anonymous mask displays 5 memetic characteristics. Its historical transmission takes place in 3 overlapping phases. Deselected traits at one point can be retrieved at another. The meme itself survives beyond the life of any individual carrier. The individual meme may participate in a larger overlapping memeplexes, and its main adaptive advantage is its ability to cross cultural and linguistic barriers. As we'll see in the case of Ukraine, a more troubling aspect of the mask's meme is its ability to cross political and ideological barriers. Theoretically, the mask's memetic transmission through variation can be called many things. For Ott, it would be classed as multimodal. For Ebricht, it would be a migrating image. For Davy Johnson, it would call out for a geographical approach to mapping a meme. Politically, it intersects with many of the comments made about the Occupy movement. Milner, following Mikhail Bakhtin, would call it polyphonic. Gibson, an anarchistic praxis. And Ulrich Brecht would see it as an expression of a real cosmopolitanism in all its contradictory variations. From the Occupy movement to the streets of Ukraine, the mask has appeared in places as diverse as on Wall Street, in Frankfurt, in Rio de Janeiro. As part of the 2010 to 2012 Arab uprisings, it appeared in Tunisia, Egypt, Lebanon, and the Gaza Strip. In the summer of 2013, it appeared in Istanbul as part of the Gezi Park protests, and later again in Brazil as part of 2013's anti-World Cup demonstrations. This geographical diversity across space is matched only by the mask's historical variation through time. On November 5, 1605, Guy Fawkes was one of 13 conspirators tried and executed for plotting to blow up the British Houses of Parliament. Though not the mastermind behind the plot, it was Guido who would become its figurehead in the ritualistic, carnivalesque burning of effigies on November 5th, or Guy Fawkes Night, from the 17th century to the present. In the late 19th century, fireworks would be added to the display, and by the 1950s and 1960s, comic books such as Whizzer would include full-color cutout masks to aid British children in creating their burning effigies. It was one such cardboard mask that David Lloyd would use as a reference for the one man against a fascist state lead character for the comic book he was creating with Alan Moore. And thus was born V for Vendetta, appearing first in Warrior from 1982 to 83, and later republished through DC Comics from 1988 to 90. In 2005, Time Warner, now the owners of DC Comics, released a movie adaptation of the comic book written by the Wachowski brothers and directed by James McTeague, to mixed critical and box office success. On September 30th, 2006, the Guy Fawkes V mask would go viral with an appearance on the internet message board VChan. Here, a stick figure named Epic Fail Guy finds a Guy Fawkes mask in a garbage can and goes on a series of misadventures. By February 10th, 2008, the hacktivist group Anonymous would don the Guy Fawkes mask for its day of action against the Church of Scientology, and the mask's memetic chain of transmission from Guy Fawkes to V for Vendetta to Anonymous was complete. From that point on, all Anonymous actions would be accompanied by a graphic of the Guy Fawkes V Anonymous mask. In this transmission, we see a series of reversals in the Guy Fawkes meme. If Guido Fawkes, a failed Anglo-Catholic militant, enters the bonfires of Guy Fawkes Night as a figure of ridicule, then he emerges from the flames of Alan Moore's V for Vendetta as what Call describes as a potent instrument for the promotion of postmodern anarchism. In this way, V is not a copy of Guido Fawkes, but rather his karmic fulfillment. However, if he emerges as a revolutionary superhero in the comic book and movie, then he re-emerges as a bumbling figure of ridicule and epic fail guy. In memetic transmission, karma can flow both ways. Another fertile contradiction can be found in the mask's material mode of reproduction. As a collateral piece of marketing for Time Warner's 2005 movie, the plastic Guy Fawkes V for Vendetta anonymous mask sells more than 100,000 units per year, making it the most lucrative item in the corporation's sales arsenal. But these sales are generated by the mask's use by a worldwide anti-corporate, anti-authoritarian, anti-establishment protest culture. Applying Blackmore and Dawkins' biological analogy then, the Guy Fawkes image now becomes a viral memetic code injected into the capitalist body, forcing it to reproduce antibodies against itself. To escape this contradiction, on the other hand, some protesters have taken to purchasing Chinese knockoffs of the mask or creating their own, as Bulgarian opposition politicians protesting the anti-counterfeiting trade agreement did on February 3, 2012, or as Malaysian demonstrators did in their spontaneous 2012 New Year's Eve Occupy Dataran street protests. Against this backdrop, it should come as no surprise that the Guy Fawkes V for Vendetta anonymous mask should appear in Kyiv's Maidan Nezalezhnosti during Ukraine's Euromaidan street protests of November 2013 to February 2014. As part of what some now call the Dignity Revolution, the mask fits well within the protests' ethos of revolt against governmental, corporate, and establishment corruption and abuse. Like Anonymous's Day of Action, the Occupy movement, the Arab uprisings, Gezi Park, and the Brazilian anti-World Cup demonstrations before it, the Euromaidan's use of the mask exemplifies Alan Moore's original one man against a fascist state memeplex. To this day, whether as the Time Warner version or the Chinese knockoff, the mask is sold at kiosks on the Maidan Nezalezhnosti, the site of the protests. Its going price is 20 hryvnia, or approximately $2 Canadian. As I left Kyiv on May 27, 2014, just after the presidential elections, an airport security guard inspected my carry-on luggage. He held up the Guy Fawkes mask I had purchased on the Maidan Nezalezhnosti and asked, "Anonymous?" Smiling, he returned the mask to my bag and waved me through. This does not leave the mask's meme free of its contradictions, however. On February 27, 2014, even after sniper shots had killed protesters on the Maidan and after Yanukovych had fled the country, Anonymous Ukraine posted a video on YouTube describing the collective as partially divided and appealing to Yanukovych to disperse the gangs of robbers and Nazis plaguing the country. On March 1, 2014, the Anonymous Facebook page featured another video, presumably by the same person, decrying the Euromaidan as part of the U.S. neocon agenda to weaken both Russia and Ukraine. This partial division was further evidenced when pro-Russian anti-Maidan protesters seized government buildings in Donetsk, Sloviansk, and Kharkiv from April to June 2014, some wearing the now familiar Guy Fawkes V for Vendetta anonymous masks. Thus, the Ukrainian experience further exposes the potential contradictions residing within the Guy Fawkes V for Vendetta anonymous meme. It can represent both ridicule and revolution, both anarchy and autocracy. And in the case of Ukraine, both the Euromaidan and the anti-Maidan simultaneously. In this way, the Guy Fawkes meme, like anarchy itself, becomes one mask with many faces. As Gibson reminds us of Occupy's anarchistic praxis, the movement's participatory processes revealed the multiplicity of positions in opposition to the status quo. Reducing the multitude of grievances to one simple demand would have betrayed the democratic foundations of the movement. What Anonymous in Ukraine ultimately teaches us, then, is that in the 21st century, our real challenge is to find a way to live with its contradictions, to embrace the mask, even when the face behind it is not our own.